anybody here seen the movie Pursuit of Happiness? Who hasn't seen it? Anybody? Everybody here heard of Will Smith?
Yes.
You were able to speak with a brilliant person here by the name of Chris Gardner. Will Smith was able to portray him in that movie, and Chris Gardner agreed to speak with us this morning and share his life experience with the team. He's built an amazing career. He's really gone through an incredible time in his life, learned so much, and has so much to share with the world. And the things that he believes are in line with what we're doing as an organization. I'm incredibly humbled that he's here joining us today. So please give him a huge round of applause.
Very good.
Chris, how are you doing?
What's up, man? How you doing? Good.
We're still living and breathing, but getting excited that you're here speaking to us today.
Brandon, for someone from Nigeria, you can be so soft-spoken and humble.
Oh.
I'm not used to that, man. I know one from Nigeria. They normally have a little bit more energy. Brandon! Lord,
Right on.
calm down. Hello, Brandon. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
Man, in the words of my dear friend and mentor, Dr. Maya Angelou,
Oh.
I am ringing and swinging and making merry like Christmas.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Well, we're honored that you're here joining us. Very excited and happy that you're going to be here to help answer some questions, motivate us, and really, talk about things that allow us to pursue our passion and our goals. Chris, I wanted to essentially break up some of our questions into 4 categories that I think you'll appreciate. Initially, I think I'd like to sort of get started talking about your early life, right? In terms of what you went through, what motivated you, what drove you to be sort of who you are today, right? Then sort of transition from there to you finding your passion, and sort of what was the turning point when it came to you understanding what you wanted to do with your career, and then you sort of seeing a horizon point on how to get to that understanding. And then catching wind, I want to talk, if you're open to sharing, some of the lowest points on that journey, and then some of the highest points and turnaround points that you experienced after pursuing it and being resilient, and then looking back on any life lessons that you learned during that period of time.
Man, you sound like a college professor. What's the first question, Brandon?
Very good. Well,
you guys seem like you sound like a congressman. He set all this up. Right? News anchor person, and that. What is the question, brother? Let me say this, Brandon. In all sincerity, I'm so happy that we get the book, The Pursuit of Happiness. Because in the film, that film, Brandon, was about 1 year of my life. One critical year. I was 29 years old, meaning there was 28 years before that.
absolutely, yeah.
And if I had not gotten what Chuck Yeager, one of the world's greatest test pilots, once called the right stuff, the first 28 years, I would have never made it.
Absolutely.
The most important decision that made the rest of my life happen, Brandon, I made it as a 5-year-old boy. The single most important decision that I ever made in my life, I made it at 5 years old. Growing up without a father, and with a stepfather who was fond of reminding me every day, I ain't your daddy, with a few other words thrown in there. I made the decision, when I grow up, become a man and have children, my children are going to know who their father is. That single decision had generational impact, Brandon, meaning it didn't just change my life, it changed the lives of my yet to have been born son and my grandchild. When I made that one decision to break that one link in that chain of cycles that had plagued my family, all of the other associated links were instantly shattered. Child abuse, domestic violence, alcoholism, illiteracy, powerlessness, and generational poverty. Okay?
Absolutely.
Let me say this, let me answer the question this way. I made the decision, Brandon, that if I had to sleep in a public washroom with my child tied on my back, as a 30-year-old man, I made that decision as a 5-year-old boy. And just one major little addition to that, for everyone who saw the film, you saw Jaden Smith portray my son as a 5-year-old. They did that for the dialogue between the characters. In reality, at this point in our journey, my son was 14 months old. That changes everything. Okay? So it comes down to, Brandon, two things. Number one, the power of choice. But number one, I had one of those old-fashioned mothers who gave me permission to dream.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, that essentially helps us understand that you had a good understanding of who you are, and essentially where you are today is still rooted from those core beliefs. Speaking of your mother, I think it's safe to say that what she would say to you had really a profound impact on your life, right? And you've been able to really utilize that in terms of a lot of the decisions and things that you made because of the influence she provided. But are there others who you've met throughout your life that influenced you? What would you say, that they said to you or impacted you to stay motivated?
First of all, let me say this, man. I believe, I'm not sure, I think this is National Mentors Month. We got a month for everything now. We run out of months. Okay? But this whole idea of directly answering your question, mentors, people who for whatever reason saw something in me that made them feel that they could just bring me a little bit closer to what I could potentially be, push me a little bit further than I was believing I could go. I think back on some of my mentors. I gotta say this, Brandon, honestly, I have to go back to some of my school teachers. Okay? For me personally, we didn't have the word mentor, but I had these school teachers who got me ready, Brandon, to go to Wall Street, and I did not even know it. Public school teachers who got me ready to compete with people who went to Harvard for kindergarten. Okay? I'm thinking about my math teacher, Mrs. Spellman. I'm thinking about Mrs. Broughton, my reading and English teacher. And let me say this, so remarkable. It's so remarkable to me that Oprah Winfrey and I are the same age, same zodiac sign, and went to the same elementary school.
Wow, incredible.
Okay? So, going forward in my career, there's a scene in the film, I'm assuming some of y'all saw the film. There's a scene in the film where at the end of the movie, the guy calls me in the office and says, Chris, wear a shirt tomorrow because tomorrow's gonna be your first day if you'd like to work here as a broker.
Yeah.
That guy still to this day is not just a mentor, but one of my best friends. We do major business transactions together. We're on the boards of a couple of companies together. I think back on people like Barbara Scott Fresco, No one in the room will know that name. But if you do a little Googling, you'll find that Mrs. Pruskel was a powerhouse. Very quiet powerhouse. Sat on the board of directors of General Electric, American Stores, Textron, New York City Community Trust, Wellesley College, and a number of other corporations. And she also happened to have been the second African-American woman to ever graduate from Yale Law School. So all of those people, Brandon, they saw something in me that maybe reminded them a little bit of something they saw in themselves, and they invested in me. And that's one of the reasons, Brandon, I agreed to do this call with you today. I'm invested in you. This is the first time that we've done something like this, but there's no reason that it should be the last.
Wow, that's
Okay?
incredible.
To get to the point in your life, Brandon, I will submit to you. You will get to a point in your life where you have to start asking yourself, have you fulfilled your generational responsibility? And my generational responsibility now is to see to it that I have opened the doors for some people who are younger than me. Have I opened the doors for them?
Absolutely.
Have I held the door open? All right? Again, to reflect back on conversations with Dr. Angelou, I cannot tell you how many times she said to me, I don't want to hear about who was the first person to do this or the first person to do that. What I want to hear is, who did you bring with you? So this generational responsibility, that's where I'm at right now. And that's why calls like this with young companies like yours, with young CEOs and entrepreneurs like you, Brandon, that's the only reason I'm doing this today. I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely, and we're honored that you're here with us. We are grateful that you're able to take some time and spend some time with us. Thank you very much for that.
I did not take the time, I made the time, brother, for you. Know that.
Absolutely, no, greatly appreciate it. You know, mentioning a moment from the film, you mentioned there was a period of time when you had gone through all this hard work and you were able to be offered the job as a broker. I wanted to talk about sort of that period of time leading up to that, because I think it's super profound, and a lot of people, as you mentioned, don't know the depth of what you went through, right? There's only so much a film can do. At what point would you say you made the decision that I'm going to be a stockbroker? I want to change. My current situation is not where I want to be, and this is what I want to do now.
Okay, let me answer that question this way. First of all, I've heard so many people for the last few years using this term, if I can see it, I can be it. For me, I almost said a bad word. I won't. That's all right. When I was where I was coming up, where I came up, there were no people that looked like me walking around saying they ran the derivatives trading desk at Goldman Sachs. There was no one walking around saying, I'm in charge of asset management at Morgan Stanley. So this whole idea, you got to see it to be it, is not something I can relate to. But here's what I can share with you. Man, I will never forget being a young man, and I heard Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speak one night. As a matter of fact, it was the last speech he ever gave in his life, Brendan. He was assassinated the very next day. But he was speaking to a group of municipal employees down in Memphis, Tennessee, garbage men. And his message to those men that night was, whatever you're going to do with your life, you should seek to become the best at it. I believe his exact words were, if you're going to be a garbage man, you should seek to become the best garbage man in sweet streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. And right there, Brandon, I made the second most important decision that I ever made in my life. And that decision was, I'm going to become world class at whatever I do with my life. Not good at it, not pretty good at it, but world class at it. And let's define world class and keep it simple. Right now in your industry, there's a conversation going on and the question has come up, who's the best in the business? Somebody ought to say your name. Same conversation, same question. Who's the best in the business? If nobody says your name, then you got work to do.
Absolutely.
Same conversation, same question. Who's the best in the business? If nobody says your name and you don't care, get out of the business. You'll never be any good. But the ultimate validation, folks, in that scenario, when that question comes up, who's the best in the business, the ultimate validation is when someone who does not like you says your name. When the people who will not take your phone calls are not hoping you'll return their calls. When the folks who would not hire you yesterday cannot afford you today. Stop, Brandon, don't get me excited. Right? But that whole idea, man, of becoming world class at something that you're truly passionate about. That's the ultimate permission to dream.
Absolutely.
When I met that guy, Brandon, that day I met that guy driving that red Ferrari, I walked up to him and I asked him two questions. What do you do and how do you do that? Okay? Those two questions changed my life. However, the point I'm trying to make was I was already committed to becoming world class at whatever I did with my life. I just had to find that one thing, Brandon, that lit me up. Right? And I'll never forget, man, the very first time I walked up to the stock exchange floor, the ticker tape is rolling, the phones are ringing off the hook, people are screaming and shouting out orders, bodies are flying all over the place, tickets are getting stamped, and what looked like chaos to anybody else, for me, it was like I was reading a sheet of music. And I could feel it. And I knew this is where I'm supposed to be. So this whole idea, man, of passion, that feeling of this is where I'm supposed to be, and I'm committed to becoming world class at it. You can't beat that, bro. You're gonna win every time, whatever it is you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
And hopefully, you got some people in that room right now that feel the same way. And if they're not, we're gonna find out, and the next thing you know, y'all all will be driving Uber. Yeah, you laughing now, I'm looking at this I'm sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
No, that's we're with you on that, absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about some of those moments because there's something you said that I keyed in on, which was you saw the room, you saw everything that was going on in that room with the people yelling on the phone, people shouting out orders and so on, and you felt that this was the right move. You saw that and you felt that. Tell me a little bit about some of the emotional stress that you went through when you had to realize, man, my situation is not going to make it easy for me to get into this position. And you having to essentially figure out how you're going to survive for a certain period of time, support your family in the process, and still make that level of success happen.
Well, the big thing there is, again, this goes back to making that commitment to doing something I was truly passionate about, and I wanted to become world class at it, and I was not going to settle, Brandon. I would not settle with myself. This is not about negotiating something externally. I would not settle with myself. And it goes back to something we talked about earlier. Those two very, very, very important decisions. Making the decision that my child will know who his father is, number one. And number two, that commitment to becoming world class at whatever I did with my life, I was not going to be denied. And that meant some sacrifices. That meant some investment, Brandon. The biggest and most important investment I've made in my life was the investment I made in myself. And I'll take it a step further. Some of the most important investments I've ever made in my life had nothing to do with the stock market. It's the people that I invested in. Just like you, Brandon, probably you got some people on your team that you invested in. And the ones that we want, that we pick the right people, every opportunity we give them, they're gonna go like this, 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 and this. That's what you want on your team, bro. And I know you got some of those people in that room right now. I know you do. But the most important investments, again, that I've made in my life were in people, including myself. I had to start with me. Because if I wasn't buying it, who would?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really key, and I like the way you phrase that. Is what people would view as hardships. You mentioned those were investments. Those were, and I like that viewpoint because we know that from the long term it's going to work out, and that's I think a great way to view it. Very good. Earlier you mentioned about being world class. Kind of really seeking out to be the best at what you do. I really like that point because, if we don't have that mindset, then why are we even in the race, right? To begin with, for achieving that and achieving that level of greatness. But when you look at how you're there, perhaps really what path you're being on to be at that level and that experience. What are some things that you tell yourself along the way when it comes to becoming world class?
First of all, you got to have a plan. And not just a plan. What is plan A? Everybody's got a dream. Everybody's got a goal. But when you ask people, what's plan A? A lot of us cannot verbalize it. Okay, I'm speaking to you today from Chicago. Just a few local examples. Michael Jordan. Michael's got 6 NBA championship rings because he was committed to plan A, not plan B. Oprah Winfrey became the queen of all media because she was committed to plan A, not plan B. Whatever your politics are, Barack Obama served 2 terms as president of the United States because he was committed to plan A, not plan B. Plan B sucks. Look, dude, Brandon, if plan B was any good, it would be plan A. Plan B distracts from plan A. I'm gonna give you one more example. I don't have to say another, I gotta say 3 words. David versus Goliath. That was plan A. That was plan A and 1 shot.
Yeah.
And sometimes in life, that's all you want. And some of us, we get that 1 shot. The question is, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
When you got your 1 shot, a shot that everybody else in the world would have loved to have had, but never got. If you get your 1 shot, what are you gonna do? What's your plan A?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really key. Thank you for sharing that. When it comes to that journey of you now understanding this is the pathway I want to take, I'm going to get myself to this level of excellence along the way. Having a plan, as you mentioned. It wasn't.
No. I did not say having a plan. I said plan A.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Of course.
Okay, let's be clear. Mike Tyson put it best when he said, everybody got a plan until they get punched in the face.
So true.
So plan A is don't get punched in the face. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, with all that in mind, I'm curious as to how you view failure. I think there's a lot of people that have a very negative connotation to that. We talk about that a lot in this company when it comes to how we grow. We're committed to trying to learn and develop ourselves along the way as in the work that we do. But for you and some of the things that you experienced, there might be a gnawing voice in the back of your mind that says, I can't fail right now. If I do, everything is for nothing. But how do you view that looking back at those times that you were trying to navigate your career path?
Failure can be your best friend. You're going to learn more from failure than you will success.
Absolutely.
Sometimes success is we just got lucky. We were in the right place at the right time. Okay. Failure can be the best teacher. And the key is always, we make mistakes. All of us make mistakes. To get to the mistake, remember the lesson. And what did we learn this one time that will assure that we won't fail in the future? Have I failed before? Absolutely, man. But I was swinging. Brandon. All right, look, I can't talk a lot about this, but let me tell you something. Very interesting. About 5-6 years ago, I failed in an attempt to buy an NBA franchise. I put together a group. We bid $700 million to buy the Atlanta Hawks. The idea was to buy that team and move it to Vegas. $700 million in lost.
Yeah.
Right? But I'll never forget walking away from that saying, that was practice. Quincy Jones once told me, the best scene that he ever heard was Michael Jackson at practice. Phil Jackson once said the best basketball he ever saw was Michael Jordan at practice. I like practice, I'll be back. And the only reason I'm mentioning that is today we're launching an IPO of a major new soccer league in Italy. Look, if you do some Google real quick, you might want to see.
Incredible. That's amazing.
Hey man,
Yeah.
practice is everything. Failure can be your best friend, but always ask yourself, what did I learn from this failure? For sure that I don't feel this way again.
Absolutely.
It's okay to fail. It's not okay to quit. Quitting can become a habit. We're all going to fail at something. We're all going to fail at something. But if you don't try, you can't fail. And if you don't try, nothing changes. So that's where I'm at on that, bro.
I appreciate that answer. That's an incredible news. Congratulations. What an incredible achievement to be able to do that. That's life-changing in itself.
Hey man, if you don't like the game, change it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I believe that wholeheartedly. In regards to some of the things that you were doing when you were at your lowest moments in the movie Pursuit of Happiness, for example, I think it was portrayed really well. We felt and saw some of the fear in Will Smith's eyes, right, as he portrayed you, right, and some of the things that he went through when he's trying to figure out his pathways, and it's just a lot on your shoulders when you have to figure those things out and support others, right? And from what we've seen and understand, it sounds like your first wife didn't really support some of those moves that you made, right? So my question.
That's okay.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
okay, Brandon. Not to cut you off, but I know where you're going. let me tell you something. Sometimes everyone is not going to see the vision that you have for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. You gotta be okay with that because that vision is yours, not theirs.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they don't love you. They just can't see you pulling it off.
Right. Yeah.
But when you do pull it off. Okay, I can't say it. Brandon, stop right there. You mentioned my ex. Now stop. Everyone is not going to see your vision. You have to be okay with that. You have to be prepared. As my mom would used to always say to me, my mom would look at me sometimes, Brandon, and I'd have a look on my face, and she would ask me, she'd say, son, are you seeing ghosts again? Yes, ma'am. What she meant was, you're seeing yourself do things that nobody else can see but you. And her point was, as long as you're seeing those things with the eyes in your soul, nobody else has got to see them.
Absolutely.
Because you're the one that's got to do the work. You're the one that's got to put in the work. Make the sacrifices. Make the commitments. Take the pain. Right? Ultimately. So everyone's not going to see your vision, and you have to be okay with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With that in mind, how important is it to have people in your corner with you knowing that you don't have to, and that everyone has to see the full picture, only you see that, as you mentioned. How important is it to have people that do cheer you on and believe in you?
Oh man, that's tremendously important. But you know what I do, honestly, Brandon? More important for me right now? I'm cheering for other people.
Absolutely.
I'm cheering for some people, you know what? I'm cheering for some people who don't even know I'm cheering for them. And cheering, I'm talking about somebody you don't know, some athlete, celebrity, rock star, rapper, whatever. I'm talking about the people, sometimes in some of our lives, in our communities, some people that are right there in our faces. I'm cheering for some people that I know right now that are struggling to complete that education, to get that certificate, to pass that exam. I'm struggling for some people right now that are struggling to open that business. I'm always cheering for single parents. For all the mothers who had to be fathers and all the fathers who had to be mothers. A lot of us, we didn't choose it, but life happens. And when you cheer for other people and they succeed, Brandon, winning is contagious, Bo. Winning is contagious. Karma has GPS. Know that, right? And all that stuff you're putting out there, and especially folks put all that negative stuff out there, fine. Karma got your address, baby. Right? But when you're cheering for other people and you have nothing to gain from their success other than the glory of knowing it happened.
Absolutely.
Man, that's a beautiful thing, Brandon. To me.
Absolutely. I think that's incredible as well. You know, with all those moments in mind, what would you say for you was the turning point to being offered that position I believe it was Dean Witter, correct?
Yep.
What was the turning point for you? Because there were a lot of people competing for that position that you were going up against. You know, as you mentioned yourself, you had to sort of fight your way in there. You had to figure all those things out. What turned the corner for that?
Let me tell you the one thing, the big thing was I wanted it more. I was invested more. And it wasn't just I was desperate for this job. I talked about it earlier. I wanted to find that one place, that one thing that I said, this is where I want to be. And I was committed to becoming world class at it. If you ask me what's the one thing, maybe a lot of the other guys, yeah, they wanted it. Okay, fine. I didn't just want it. I wanted to become world class and did it. Brandon, and did it, becoming world class at it. I cannot stress that enough. A lot of us got to be mindful that the people right now that we're all competing with, because of globalization and technology, the people that you're competing with right now are not in this country. Because of globalization and technology, the people that we're competing with right now are all around the world. And you see that guy that's getting up to walk out of the room right now? There's somebody someplace around the world that will give an arm and a leg to sit at that table right now. Go ahead, man. Go ahead, go do what you gotta do, player. That's what I'm talking about. When I say global competition, there are people that you cannot see, Brandon, you personally, that need to be on your radar because they want to be in the space that you're in, Brandon. They would love to say, whoa, what are they doing in offer that we can do a little bit different, a little bit better? How do we raise the bar on this thing? So you got to be going at it every day. And Brandon, let me just say this, man, and not to make you uncomfortable, but those people, they're all looking at you saying, I could do his job.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The truth is, that's who you want on the team.
Absolutely. Agree with that. Yeah. 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 That drive, I agree with that. Absolutely. You know, speaking of drive, you know, I mean, and you touched on this earlier, and I really appreciated that point when you said you're looking for someone that it's your turn to mentor somebody, right, from your standpoint. And you kind of said, hey, I'm looking for the next Chris Gardner, I think you mentioned earlier, which I thought was incredible. If we can just continue to kind of ideate on that point for a moment, and build off of that, what drives you today? What are some of the things that you're doing in that standpoint that you've achieved all this success for yourself, you fought your way to it, what would you say drives you right now?
It's not about me anymore. It's not about me.
Absolutely.
I am very clear on it. It's not about me. It's about the future of our country. It's about the future of the world. I am right now, have been for the last 4 years, spending a tremendous amount of time with young people globally. High schools, middle schools, upper level elementary schools, prisons, and talking about what could be done. There's no shortage of places telling young folks what they can't do. I want to be the guy to talk about what it can be. Okay? And when I say I'm going to help create the next Chris Gardners, let me be real clear on that. What does that mean? That means if a young woman comes up to me and says, I want to become a billionaire, I've got to say, I've never done that. I can't help you with that. If a young man comes up to me and says, I want to become the CEO of a major Fortune 500 company, I've got to say, I've never done that. I can't help you with that. But when a young person comes up to me and says, I want to do something that I love, I'm committed to becoming world class at it, and I want to work for myself, to that young person I can say, I've done that. I can help you with that. Okay? And I would take it a step further. I have been challenged by adults who've asked me, well, what are the odds of you or an Oprah ever happening again? I can't answer that question. Because when you are on the journey to the dream, you don't focus on the odds. You focus on the evens. As in, even though, even if, even when, even where, even you, even me. Because when you change the narrative, you can change the outcome. So that's the most important thing in the world to me right now, is the time I'm spending through my foundation, working with young people. And as a matter of fact, now you were in Austin, right?
Yes. Yes, Austin.
We're going to be down there mid-February, man. I'm speaking at a couple of schools in Austin. I'm going to reach out. It'd be nice if you can come by and join us and see what we're doing.
We would love that. That would be incredible.
All right.
Absolutely.
Cool.
That would be incredible. We love that guy.
How we doing on time now? We gotta take a couple of questions from the team, or you just gonna sit there and play newscast? Go ahead, boy.
Well, I do have one more question before we open it to the audience. But yeah, no, greatly appreciate your time. Like the last question I have, I guess at this point is when should one start preparing for the journey that they have set in front of them to find greatness for themselves and build their career paths?
All you can do is start right now. Should have started yesterday.
Yes.
Right? Honestly, should have started yesterday. Can't do that. Let's start right now.
Absolutely.
Start where you are today.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, Brandon, if you let me know and I'll send you down some copies of my second book, Start Where You Are.
Oh, that would be
Period.
amazing.
Done.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, we would love that as well. That's amazing. Well, Chris, we appreciate all of the questions you answered here. Very motivational and beneficial for everybody here. I'd like to open it up now to our audience here to see if there's any questions and additional things that they can gain from this conversation. But I appreciate your time, and if anyone has any questions, please let's ask him while he's here in the room with us.
Chris, are you able to hear me all right?
I'm sorry, bro.
Are you able to hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Go ahead.
So, your son is not going to have the same experience as you. He will have a different path of character building experiences. What was your philosophy to make sure that he carried the generational lessons that you that you valued? How did you raise him? Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Very, very succinct answer to that question. Greatness can't skip a generation. And what I mean by that, man, I'm talking about my granddaughter. And don't get me started talking about my granddaughter, because we'll be here a long time. My granddaughter turned 15 years old yesterday, Brandon.
Wow.
And she is already the finest piece of work ever created in the history of my family. Oh man, my baby is 15 years old, straight A student, has been since the first day of kindergarten, 6 feet tall, 9th grade, and she's got Division I coaches coming to watch her play. Okay? If she wants to, she can go that way. Nobody's pushing that, but we're pushing developing and growing. Now, let me answer it this way. Let me take it a little bit further. That whole idea, my mother telling me I could do or be anything, that was permission to dream. I gave that same permission to my son, who went on to become the first person in the history of our family to ever attend college. And now I get a chance to give it to my granddaughter, and the point is, for her, there are no more firsts. For her, there's only now and next.
Absolutely.
We've done all the first. Okay? So we're on to the next one. I hope I answered your question, sir. I'm sorry, but I get a little excited when I talk about my granddad.
That's great. Yeah.
Yes. Please.
So it's an honor to hear from you, and I would love to hear about your relationship with fear. Specifically, once you started living your plan A, were you ever afraid to lose the success that you earned, and how did you maintain your state of happiness?
Fear is fuel. But when you got faith, faith and fear cannot exist in the same space. All right? You have fear? No. Concerns, awareness, sensitivities, absolutely. But fear can paralyze you. I just am such a firm believer in, if I've given my all, if I made my plan A, I'm not going to lose. Right? But I also have to be very, very conscious, honestly, this idea of fuel of the people you have in your life is very hard sometimes. It's hard enough when everything is going good to stay focused. But when you've got some distractions and some negativity in your life, that makes it even more difficult. So I have to say no to fear, but use the fear as fuel. And I also, honestly, some of the things we've been working on and are working on, I have the luxury of controlling the pace. Right? Some of the things that I'm working on take a little more runway. But I have the luxury of that runway as opposed to being in a position of feeling like I have to lift off. That helps me control. And that means a little turbulence on the way up. I've climbed this mountain before. So have all of us. I mean, you think about it, the last 3 years, man, we've all had to learn how to do things differently, have we not? The last 3 years, we've all had to learn how to do things differently. And sometimes that fear, sometimes you gotta do your best work in the rain.
Yeah.
Huh? Brandon, everybody wants to go to work when the sun is shining, the skies are clear, everybody's willing to go to work. Sometimes you got to do your best work in the rain. And when I say the rain, I'm not talking about the rain falling from the skies or some other external event that you cannot control, like a virus or a pandemic. When I say work in the rain, I'm talking about the blood, sweat, and tears that you're going to generate when you're trying to build something. That helps you control that fear. The blood, sweat, and tears you got to build when you're trying to create something, to build something, to change something. Use that as fuel, not fear.
Absolutely.
Man, I'm going to write that down. That was pretty good. Fuel, not fear. Okay, the new 4-letter words. Oh. You ought to write that shit down. Hey, don't be using my stuff. Go ahead.
Other questions, please.
If you can hear me all right back here, you mentioned
Yes,
your plan
sir.
A. You can hear me?
Yeah.
You
Yes,
mentioned
sir.
your plan A that the goal is not to get hit in the face, but sometimes you're working with companies when they're trying to do new hires that they got hit in the face. So how are you able to have your plan A built to where no matter what happens externally, you're actually able to adjust even a small amount, but you're still able to keep to your plan A?
Well, you know what? Let me tell you this. How many companies are we talking about? In your personal experience, how many companies are we talking about?
We spoke of 100 in Q4, so a bunch.
Okay, a bunch, that's fine. That's fine. And they all got hit in the face at the same time?
The economy. Yes.
Yeah, economy or sometimes ineptitude. Yeah.
But some of those are better prospects than others, yes?
Yes, sir.
Keep those other prospects warm. Keep them warm. Invest in building that relationship. They're going to appreciate it when their businesses come around. We've all heard that old thing about having more than one iron in the fire. Yeah, well, sometimes it's good to have more than one fire going. Right? And it's okay. That's part of the normal business cycle. It's never going to be as simple and easy as A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. That's never going to happen. That's why you've always got to have some more things happening. And always, for me personally, I'm always working on one thing that only is so big, I only got to sell it once. but also always working on one thing that nobody can make happen but me.
Thank you,
And
sir.
it's not because I got some expertise that nobody else has. You know what it is? The most important aspect, directly related to your question, is the relationship.
Okay.
Who's invested the most in building the relationships with our customers? We're in a business, let's say, where everybody is good. All your competitors are good. There's this much of a price differential between you and your biggest competitor. You know who's gonna get the business? The person that's invested the most in the relationship. Relationship management. It's gonna come down to that every time. There's not gonna be too much of a difference between your price and their price. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, but just think about it more. And look at the list of 100 companies and ask yourself, where's my best relationships? And where can I improve my relationships? Relationships are everything, baby. Relationships can do things that money cannot.
Yeah.
That's gonna make the difference between who gets the call and who didn't get a call. Relationships, man. You guys are too young, and I won't bore you with this, but we used to sing a song in elementary school. Anybody remember that song about the 3 R's? All right, write it down, somebody. Okay, I want you to Google this, the 3 R's. Your parents, your grandparents, and I, we used to sing this song about reading, writing, and arithmetic. Right? That song was written in 1879 or 1890, something like that. My point is there's a new 3 R's. Meaning the rep, the rap, and the Rolodex. You've got to maintain a reputation for excellence and integrity in your personal and your business life. The rep, you've got to be able to communicate. You can have the best goods, services, or products in the world, but if you cannot communicate, if you cannot rap, you'll never sell anything. And the Rolodex. I can see the looks on some of the faces. Rolodex. Used to be a smartphone, we had a Rolodex, all right? What we're talking about here is relationships. Relationships can do things that money cannot. So there you go, the new 3 R's, the rap, and the Rolodex. All right, Brandon, last call, baby, because I gotta go put this fuel, turn this fear to fuel. The new F word, remember that, the new 4-letter word.
Love it. Yes.
Do not fear.
Any other questions, guys? Well, Chris, we appreciate your time very much. Thank you so much for coming.